Hi, it's Kathy from Raven Vintage. Someone made a comment in a reel on this particular page and asked, how do I make these pockets? So I don't know if you can see, but there's a little bit of a notch removed there and there as well. There's a reason I do that. It's to remove the bulk. Let's see if I can demonstrate it here as well. So there is a notch cut out of the center here, and here as well there's a divot. There's a reason I do that, and that's to remove the bulk so that when this closes, this doesn't buckle. So I'll show you another way I do it in a different journal. This journal has this particular pocket page is using double-sided scrapbook paper, and it has just a knot. I don't know if you can see it right here, right in the center. I cut a V notch there just to remove some of the bulk so that when this closes, it doesn't like bump up in the middle, and it makes the journal easier to close. So let me just show you how I do that. It's pretty simple. If you don't have this tool that I'm going to use, you can use scissors, so don't worry about that. So my journals are all basically, my standard size for a journal is 8.5 tall by 5.5 wide. The reason is I work with US letter size paper, 8.5 by 11. If it was portrait, that would be 8.5 wide by 11 tall. But I do most of my stuff landscape, horizontal, so it's 8.5 tall. And then when I fold the 11 inches in half, half of that is 5.5. So my journals are typically this size. Typically my journals are always this 8.5 tall by 5.5 wide. That's my standard go-to size for making journals. I do various sizes as well, especially when it's an altered book. Obviously that's a much different size. And then when I use box board, like this was a food package, obviously that's a taller box, wider box, very different. So, but this is my go-to size. So I'm going to be working with those measurements today. You don't have to, it's just what I'm going to work with today so that I can demonstrate this pocket idea. So the reason we use scrapbook paper in the center or the very outside page of a signature is because it's thicker, and that gives us some integrity, some structure to hold the stitching when we sew in our binders, when we bind them to the junk journal cover. So that gives the paper a little, it holds the thread better. So we want something a little more secure. So I'm using the We Are Memory Keepers score and trim board. I've had this thing a really long time, and it's a workhorse. I'll tell you, I've used it so many times. It's looking a little shabby, rough, but she works really well. I love this. This is one of my favorite tools. Okay, so this is 12 by 12 paper. I've cut the top off. So I know that I only need 11 wide if I'm going to fold this in half. So I'm going to trim off an inch, make this 11 wide for starters. Okay, and I know I want it to be 8.5 tall. So I'm going to score this. So when you score, you just flip this over. So it's got this ledge here for you to push up against. So I'm going to turn my paper this way to score. The reason is I'm going to be folding this up to make the pocket. So this is technically the top of my paper. If you're confused at all, mark a T so you don't forget what you're doing. But this will be the top of my paper. There's my scoring tool. So I'm going to come across to 8.5. I'm actually just going to come 1/8 of an inch shorter, just because from experience I know that it's a little bit too tall if I do exactly 8.5 when I fold it. So, but 8.5 is fine, or whatever whatever the height of your journal is, that's where you want to score. If you're scoring, you don't have to score. You can you can just fold, but I am just going to score gently. So when you're scoring, the pressure you push down on with your scoring tool, I'm doing it kind of gently, and I'm going to make a number of passes. The reason is I'm just want to manipulate the fibers of the paper. I'm trying to bend them, coerce them, because obviously this thicker paper is layered with paper fibers, and the ink, the part where they printed on the top, obviously didn't seep through to the back. So there's white fibers behind this print. So if I were to fold this and crease it sharply, like a really sharp crease, it would probably snap, and those fibers would do this. And then when it's folded, you'd be able to see the white fibers on the edge. So that's why I don't always, but sometimes I score. I thought I should show you the scoring technique, but if I were to fold it, I'm going to do it gently. And I'm just going to slowly work on that crease. I'm not going to be real harsh about it. We're just going to do it softly because we want to not break those fibers there. Okay? That's why we do that. All right, now this is going to be folded in half. This is going to get bulky. So let's find, again, we can score or you can just fold. It's up to you. So why don't I show you how when I'm just folding and not scoring, what I mean about doing if you score, you're going to get a straight line. You have a better chance of getting a straight line, let's put it that way. But let's try it this way. So if I line up my two corners, here and here, press down there, I'm going to slide out from the center and then out that way and then out the other way gently. I'm not pressing too hard, just gently, because I don't want to snap those. Now if these do snap, they are going to be inside your journal at the spine, so you're not really going to see that if it does snap. Not too concerned about that. We are a little concerned about the bottom. So what you can do to help this is put some washi tape across the bottom seam from the inside. You can do the outside too if it's decorative. But that is just going to give that a little bit more integrity, and hopefully you don't get a split. Okay, now before we glue anything, we're going to make those notches I told you about. I like to use this. You can just use a pair of scissors. But this is probably what I use this envelope punch board for the most, is what I'm going to show you right now. Okay, so I've opened this back up to the full length. I've opened the pocket back up, and I'm going to fold it in half. So I'm looking at putting a notch right about here. You can put a little pen mark if you want, so you know where your center is. There we go. So 3.5 would be 1.5, and then 1.75. 1.75. That looks a little better. That looks a little more centered. I wouldn't have done that because I don't like measuring. So now I would just do it by eye. So you see where this score line goes inside, that where the score line meets the metal part, that's the center. You can also look at this. Yep, there's a center line right here on the back if you want to line it up. I'm going to stand up so maybe I can see that as well. So I'm lining up my center mark with that, or underneath here, roughly. So that's how I get that notch right there. Okay, now if you also want the V notch at the top, open your paper right up, and again centered. So when it's opened up full, you just get a V notch like that. But when it's folded in half and you turn your paper sideways, you get the V notch that direction. So when it's folded, it's doing the V on both sides of the paper. So that's where we get that hole. That's how I do that. Now, like I said, if you just have a pair of scissors, you could cut a V with some scissors. You could corner around that. You can trim that, just trim the corner off as well. But basically, the reason I'm doing this is so that when this folds, there's less bulk in here, and that helps this to fold nicely. Okay, so you've got that done. Let's revisit your crease gently. Revisit this crease. Let's look at the other side. What's it look like? It's looking good. Revisit your crease. So it's starting to lay flatter, but you can see you've got overhang here. That is going to happen. Don't think you've done anything wrong. It's just that's what happens when we fold paper. So you can trim this now. You can corner round that, which often is enough just to do the corner rounding. And then once your journal is put together, you can trim off any excess there because it's going to be so tiny. It's not going to matter. So I'm going to corner round here. One more thing you might want to do at this point is your thumb notches. So I often don't put my thumb notches in until my signature is sewn in, but I'm going to let you know that I do not glue my sides until this is sewn in the journal, because sewing it in and having all the other papers around it, things shift, and if I glue it, it might end up doing this inside the journal or something strange. So I've learned not to glue my sides until I put my journal together. But okay, so again, if you wanted to measure, we're 5.5, 2.7, find your center. So I have a center mark with a Sharpie. I put a center mark on my, oh, I marked this, not this, whatever. But basically I just turn my circle punch over, eyeball that. I'm just going to eyeball this one. Okay, so you've got, oh, it's not quite as big. It's bigger. There we go. Okay, so those are done. So we've done quite a bit to this 12 by 12 piece of paper, haven't we? Now it's white, so obviously we want to put something in there to cover it up. And when you put your paper in, depends, like here I've got these birds and I like this title, so I want to make sure that that's right at the top. But obviously it's too long, but I want to make sure that I have something behind where I put the notch. So I'm just going to fold this up a little bit. Don't need to glue it all the way down, but I'll trim my paper up before I put it in. So let's just rip it. Probably the easiest. Okay. Now this is a good time too, if you want to ink everything, you could do that as well. And I am just using a glue stick because it's faster and I'm at the end of my glue stick. Okay, I'll be right back. This one's not colored, but so I think I might invest in some more colored glue sticks of the UU sticks, because I think for training purposes on the videos, it's probably easier for you guys to tell what I'm doing if it's colored, right? That's what I'm thinking. I'm going to throw this away because I will dig that glue out and I will use that. Cheapo. Okay, I'm going to turn this around so I can line up my top here. So like I said, I know that my journals are 8.5 tall by 5.5 wide, which is times 2 is the 11-inch, which is the full length of this. Corners. All right. And if you want to ink, this is a good time to ink. But like I said, I don't typically, I do not glue these sides down until it's sewn in. But I will glue them down just for the sake of this video. But that's how I make my signature pockets. So just keep in mind, whatever's on the bottom here, so see this is technically upside down. I don't really care with that design. But if you have text on something, or numbers, or just make sure if it's directional paper, you're going to want to make sure you have something that is okay to fold up, or you're okay to cover up, or you're okay if it's upside down. Just keep that in mind. Now you can also ink your edges here, but if you end up having to trim them, you might just have to ink them all over again, so why bother? I do like to ink my center crease. I think that helps with the aged look. That's cute. Okay, so the birds, that's just part of one of my basic journaling kits that I have on my Etsy shop. There's a section for basic journal pages. There's 4 different kits in there so far. They're just papers that you might want to have on hand. The musical, the songbirds sheets, they go with everything. There's different colors, different birds. They're a nice one to have for making tags or use as background sheets or something like this. Okay, so in this case, I am going to glue my sides down. You can staple, you can wrap a sticker around your edge, you can tape them, but I'm going to use glue. There, well, I hope that answers your question to the gal that was asking how I make my pockets. So again, this will probably be the center of a signature or the outside of a signature. So I've got some trimming left to do here, but I will probably leave that until it's in my journal. I want to put a paper clip on that or something till that dries. But yes, I definitely remove some bulk out of the center, or at the very least the top of where those pockets go. I don't glue mine down. I don't bother. There's going to be a stitch here, here, and here. It's going to hold it enough. Nothing's going to slide from here over to that side. So that's how I make my pockets for my signatures. All right, if you have any other questions, if there's anything else you would like demonstrated, by all means, comment below. Let me know if there's something. I seem to be connecting with a lot of beginner junk journal makers. So if you're new to junk journaling, of course, I want to encourage you to give this craft a try. If you are new, or you're just thinking about it, you're junk journal curious. If you're just new and you have questions about any of the, I will do my best to answer or demonstrate. So if there's something you would like demonstrated or a tutorial on, by all means, let me know in the comments and I'll add it to my ideas list of videos. Videos to make for you. I'm losing my voice. If you ever use Raven Vintage printables and you post a story or something, tag me. I'd be happy to share your work in my stories, okay? Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.